Imagine, you want to play the Queen's Gambit, or the London system. So you start the game with d4, but instead of a typical response like d5, or knight f6, your opponent plays e5, catching you off guard. Because you don't see this move that often, you don't know what to do. But in this video, I'm going to tell you how to play in this position, so you can confidently counter it next time. First of all, this opening is called the Englund Gambit. Even though it's not very popular, some players still use it. The main first moves of the Englund Gambit are d4, opening up the center, e5, sacrificing a pawn, dxe5, white taking the pawn, knight c6, black attacking the pawn, aiming to reclaim it, knight f3, white defending the pawn, queen e7, black attacking the pawn again and preparing a trap. If they play something else, develop your pieces normally and enjoy the free pawn. But don't fall for the ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Gambit. The ICBM Gambit goes like this: d4, e5, dxe5, but now black does not attack the pawn, but develops his bishop. Later you will see why this move is really important. Knight f3, developing the knight and adding a defense to the pawn. d6, giving white another pawn. ext6, white takes the pawn. Here, black might play knight e7, but be careful not to take this knight, as you will lose your queen. That was the ICBM opening. Now let's get back. After queen e7, white responds with bishop f4. But black plays queen b4, thinking they are winning because they attack the bishop, king, and the b2 pawn simultaneously, but that's not true. Many players here block queen with a pawn, or knight, but the correct move is bishop d2. You allow your opponent to take the b-pawn, but you save your bishop. Black captures the pawn and attacks the rook. But don't attack the black queen by moving the bishop to c3, as it leads to this pin and loss. Instead, play knight c3. Black here has two main responses, bishop b4 or knight b4. First, let's explore bishop b4. When they play this, immediately attack the queen with the rook. After the queen retreats to a3, play knight d5, threatening to take the bishop and to make a fork on the king. Black might exchange bishops and capture the a2 pawn, but simply move your rook to the center. Despite black's efforts, the fork threat remains, forcing them to play king d8 to defend both rook and pawn. Then, play knight g5, threatening another fork. Black might defend by capturing the center pawn with their knight, but you can play queen c3, targeting the c7 pawn, the knight, and indirectly the g7 pawn. If black plays f6 to defend their knight and attack yours, play the brilliant move knight e6. If black ignores this, you fork the king. But if they capture your knight, you checkmate black in 3 moves. If black defends with knight h6, push the pawn. If they capture it, sacrifice your knight, and if they capture your knight, take their queen. Now, what if in the opening black plays knight b4? Here you can't play rook b1 immediately, due to the fork threat. Instead, play knight d4, defending the c2 pawn. Black might try to attack your knight with a pawn, but now rook b1 works as the knight on d4 defends the c2 pawn. After the queen moves to a3, move your knight from d4 to b5, attacking the queen and threatening a fork on the king. The only move for the queen is a5. Then simply attack the knight. They can't move their knight without allowing our knight on d5 to attack the queen and threaten a fork. They can't take the knight either, as it results in a royal fork. But they can attack your knight with pawn. But ignore it, take their knight. If they recapture, play rook a1, attacking the queen. Now, a puzzle for you. What would you play if the queen moves to b6? Write your answer in the comments, and I'll like every correct answer. This opening is not that easy. Even though computer evaluates almost every position as complete win for white, it's very easy to make a blunder and lose all the advantage. If you watched up to this point, it means you enjoyed this video. So, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, this is my first video, so if you have any feedback or want a review of another opening, write it in the comments. I will answer every comment.